ਅੰਤੀ KTV ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਿਰਨ। ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਮਨ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ।
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਮੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਅਮਨੀਤ ਕੌਰ ਅਨਸੈਟ ਡਿਜੀਟਲ ਤੋਂ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਯੂਥ UK ਤੇ ਸਿਸਲੀ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਊਥਹੋਲ ਕਾਸਟ ਮੂਵੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ।
ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਨੇ already ਕਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਆ, today we have arrived at Sicilly to Southall press conference. So today what we are going to do, ਅੱਜ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਾਸਟ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਦੀਪਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਯੂਥ ਤੋਂ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਯੋਗਦਾਨ ਆ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸੋ ਆਓ ਜੀ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। First of all, I want to thank the KTV team for coming all the way to highlight and showcase our exclusive premiere, which we're doing at the Everyman Cinema in North London today. Alongside that, I want to thank Punjab 2000 and Unsaid Digital for their teams who are arriving for the press conference and any other media that's been supporting our projects. I want to thank everyone who's been part of this vision and project, because it's been a very powerful and, it's been a very powerful and important topic that has been struck with the Sikh community for the last 5-6 decades. So it's so important that we start highlight this in a visual way. I like this film. This is like the 4th film the Sikh Youth UK team have done, and this one's called Sicilly to Southall. The cast are with us today. Some of the cast, the rest of them on their way to watch the actual premiere, which will be coming on straight after the press conference, which you will get to see in a few weeks live on KTV. The scriptwriter and one of the team who's been helping me do the project is next to me, Core Plan. She's been doing a lot behind the scenes on this project as well. So I'd like to bring her in as well, just to say a few words about the Sicilly to Southall project.
So me and Deepa worked together to actually go through the cases to make sure that all the cases and families that we've actually sat with and stress that we've seen amongst those families, that we wanted to bring a vision alive so that everyone could actually see the trauma that these families go through. So we sat down, we made sure that all the cases, there was a few cases that had a common issue. So the common issue that we had, we made sure that this film reflected that issue. We wanted to make sure that everyone was part of it. Whilst creating the script and writing the script, it was really important for us to make sure that we showed each side. So the mother, the father, the actual victim, what everyone goes through. So I'm really looking forward to everyone seeing the movie.
Thank you. We'd like to pass it back to the press teams who are going to be asking questions, and then we can pass it on to some of the. They'll be asking the cast, some detailed questions about how they felt on set and whatnot. So I'll pass it back to the press team.
So what I want to start off is by asking you, Core Plan. So how was your role?
So when you say my role, as in for the script or for the actual film? Okay, so the first thing was to do the script. So when we was going through the script, it was important to kind of make sure that each character had enough to kind of show what the parents actually go through in real life. Because if we did a script and it was mainly based on just the mum or just the father or just the victim, then you don't actually understand the role. So that was the main thing of the script, making sure that every character was covered, and even showing how a groomer is how a groomer plays a part in it all, but very cleverly. So that was the script. And then with regards to the role, I play the victim in the role. So it was a very emotional time, even during the week of filming, and actually it felt quite real. So yeah,
That's going on to my next question. How did you find it on set?
Yeah, so on set it was crazy, like the amount of emotions that we all went through. It was yeah. So the film is actually based on a true story. It's not. We didn't make anything up. Obviously, we made up the script and making sure it goes together. But the actual story is a true based story. So I'm just really looking forward to everyone seeing it.
So what was did you face any challenges when taking on this role, maybe internally, how you made
I think there were a few challenges in the sense of just managing everyone's emotions, because because it was a true story. So obviously on the week of the filming and stuff, it was very intense, but it was just managing everything.
Okay, so because many of you haven't seen the movie yet, but how would you briefly describe your character?
It's just it's basically it's just like one of us. It's a normal girl who's come here and she just wants to start her life fresh, and she's got loving parents, but it's so normal because this does happen to all of us, you know. So it's important to reflect that in this day and age, in the modern time, because a lot of us are ignorant towards it. I was ignorant towards it until I started working with Deepa. I was so ignorant towards it because I was like, oh, this used to happen in the 80s, 70s, 80s. These things don't. Yeah, definitely. I never thought that these things happen. And then when I sat with Deepa and I went through the cases, and when we sit with families, and I'm like, oh my God, it's people that you think are so happy on the outside, and when you sit with them, you just think, oh my God, like you're going through all this. So it's just really important to reflect that.
Okay, so how do you feel to represent this character? How do you feel that you've had the opportunity to come into this film and you've learned a lot, as you said, alongside the whole experience? How do you feel?
I feel very privileged because I think even if it helps one girl,
Yeah.
it's that for me, that's like my job done.
Yeah.
Even if it helps one girl's mentality, that's the main thing, because it could happen in our own families, and that's the whole point. We're together at the end of the day, and that's the whole point of Sicilly, to make sure that you're all together, you know.
Yeah, absolutely right. Do you want to briefly tell us a bit about the characters? So, of course, you're the main character. Who else is involved? What other characters?
Shall I let Deepa let you do that?
So we've got Mum, who's playing the mum of Tarun Kaur, and then we've got Naveed, and then we've got Dad. So they're all the core team. We had a lot of extras on the set, but a lot of these are the core team, and you know, they worked hard on set. A lot went, like Benji just explained, there's a lot that went on behind the scenes. Like, while we were on set, you couldn't make this up. We're making a film on migrants coming to the UK, and while we were on set, I think it was the third day, midweek, a case had come forward from a Sikh family who had come from Afghanistan, 11-year-old girl, and you couldn't make it up. While we're on set filming about these issues, it happened again. And it's happened previously when we've done music films. Like, these issues that happen there, like, you can't make it up sometimes. It's unreal. And like, honestly, like, the cast, this core team here was solid, just like the others, the extras, be it from the script writing to the camera team to the people who have given their properties up to the, like, we filmed this in 1 week. Yeah, all in 1 week, and it was intense. I'm saying early starts, long days, late nights. We put accommodation up, so they all stayed in a hotel together. So it was all on set. You know, throughout the week, it was like really difficult some days. Like, I remember one day we just had all had to sit down, and we had to, like, emotions were up and down with the camera team, with us, with the cast. Like, so many scenes to get shot in one day. So we calmed everyone down. We sat down. We did Bart one of the evenings, and that just brought the chant back and things like that. It was so important, but everyone's emotions up and down. But honestly, this core team here did so good. And you know, I'll bring it on. Obviously, Benji spoke. I'll pass it this way, and you can ask questions to Baji about how his role as Naveed was.
So, Naveed, can you tell us a bit about your role? How was your role?
Well, my role, well, I wasn't playing Superman. You know, I was playing the main groomer, and it's not a role that everyone wants, but it's a role that someone had to do. And I tried to the best of my ability to play that, so I got literally as slimy as I could, man. Like, I trimmed my beard so thin, slitting my eyebrow, I wore clothes like a street rat, and you know, I didn't even recognise myself at some points.
How did you find it on set? How was your whole experience on set? What was it like? Is this something new for you?
Well, you hear about these cases a lot, but you know, like Deepa Baji just said, like, you can't make it up. Like, something happened during midweek, and you're hearing about this stuff, and it's just so shocking and hard-hitting to you, and it's just crazy.
What was your biggest challenge taking on this whole role? Because of course you are kind of playing the villain role in this whole story. So how did it? something I want to do, this is something I don't want to do. What was the biggest challenge for you personally?
Biggest challenge for me, I would say, is playing someone completely different to who I am. But at the end of the day, that's what an actor does. And I felt like, well, I felt like that. I don't know the rest of the team, but I felt like I did that quite well. And like, it was just so different to who I am and to what a Sikh is, 100%.
So, of course, could you've already briefly just told us a bit more about the character. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your character?
Yeah, be careful with these characters because they're everyday characters you see on the street. And when I was told about the character brief, I already had a vision of what my character was going to look like, how they were going to act. You know, they act like a bit of a joke at the start, they charm you up, stuff like that. So one word I'd say is be careful. That's it.
And of course, like you said, be careful. Any message you'd like to give to all the viewers watching this film, or even if this premiere now, of course, for what we're live right now, any message to anyone? Would you like to encourage people to go watch it? Any messages for anyone?
100%. I'd advise everyone, especially the youth, because it's rising, this stuff that's happening, and you're hearing about it quite often, and you know, stuff like this needs to be done, and getting the message out, that's one of the main important things. Yeah.
So if we take it to the next, your role, of course, can you tell us a bit about your role and how did you find it?
Hi, my role, it was quite different to what I've ever done, in the sense that I'm a happy, jolly go fellow, but this scene and the film itself was very intense, very emotional for me. The character itself was hard to fill, but it took me a while to get into it, but they've helped me out, the whole team helped me. It's something that I've never done, it's not, but it's an insight to what people actually face, especially the immigrants that are coming to this country. It's hard.
How did you find it on the set?
Initially it was relaxing but intense in the sense that there was a lot of work to be done. Even on, I've never acted before or anything like that, but it's a case where I had to be in the mode to produce what I had to do. Even the emotionals and everything had to be created.
What was your challenges towards this film? Any challenges you felt?
A lot, to be honest. It's quite a lot. It's outside my boundaries, but with everybody's help, it helped me to reach the parts that I needed to reach. It was very, very good.
So do you have any comments on the role that you're playing? Of course, how would you describe the character you play in this whole film? And do you think it's an important character? If so, why?
I think the father's role is important in the sense that he needs to see what's going on with his family internally and to be part of it. What's happened is we're all singly minded. We're all into doing our own jobs, but we have a family to look after, and we need to spend more time with the family. Make sure that everybody is talking to each other and spending time. So.
Okay, how do you feel to represent this character? Of course, you played the character in this film. How do you feel? Are you happy about it? Do you feel some sort of satisfaction in the way that you're getting a message across to people?
I am actually, yes. I'm very happy and content with what I've done in the sense that it's a fulfillment for me in portraying a father's role, and all the emotions and everything on it. It's a roller coaster ride.
Okay. So
Worth it.
Naveed, any messages you'd like to give to the viewers at the moment?
On a serious note, I would actually ask everybody to watch them. Watch out for the family around you and other people around you. It's there, you can physically see it, but be aware of it. As for the film, I would recommend going and see it. It'd be a good turnout for you.
So if you speak to Southall, yeah? So my first question to you is going to be, how was your role? So how was the whole role for you?
For me, it was the case where when Deepa and Kiran said to me about this project, what they were doing, what they wanted to show everybody, I thought it was such a good idea because this is what is happening. This is what's happening and it needs to be highlighted. All the youngsters, you know, for parents, it's very, very important to go out there and tell their children, this is what's happening. You know, it's all about what we face. What the youngsters face. They go to universities, they come from different places. It's very hard for them because they're easily taken in. You know, they're easily with friends, they're so easily influenced, but they don't know what's behind it. you know, for the villain's role as well. You know, for them to come out the way it came out, she was so innocent. You know, the girls are innocent. And they need to highlight this everywhere. It's not about your colour or your religion or this, that, but it is happening out there.
So how did you find it on set? What was your whole experience like?
I really enjoyed some parts, but some of it was very, very emotional. I mean, I've got children of my own. And, you know, you do actually see what's going on out there. And we try to explain it to children, but they don't understand. And for them to go and watch this film, it will highlight a lot of things. They will understand what we're talking about. Sometimes it's hard for parents to explain. And when they actually see this is true story, this is what's happening.
So what was the biggest challenge for you when taking on this character? Any problems you had? Even if sometimes, of course, it is a role that you're playing. A mother's role is the most important in every
Yes.
girl's life.
Yes.
So that takes a lot of emotion. How did you feel? What was the challenges you may have had?
I found it that moving from one country to another country and with your children and even with my husband's role as like when he's like nearly committing suicide because of what's going on. All these things in your head as a mother.
So, my question is for you. You worked on the script. So,
Yeah.
what are the challenges you faced while working on the script?
So it was important to kind of create a script where you're covering the story, but it's also important to be sensitive because it could happen anywhere to anybody. It's not a specific, religion, or it's not a specific, group. It could happen to anybody in anyone's religion. And, it's not just also about our own people and like Sikh people. It's about everybody. So the main thing with regards to the script was making sure that we covered every aspect. And just making sure that when it came to the film and it coming actually together, that it felt like a real issue, because even though it's based on a true story, it's important to kind of reflect that as well, so that the viewers can actually relate to it.
Yeah, earlier we spoke about directing. You mentioned, Deepa, that the filming was done all in 1 week. So we talked about the challenges, about filming in a week, but how about directing? What sort of challenges did you face?
Me and Benji had a lot of challenges. I think the script had to change a few times. The camera team weren't happy, but it is what it is. We have to make sure it flows, and we have to make sure the characters who were performing them roles, were up to scratch and comfortable doing that. So some scenes weren't comfortable for them. So, the challenges were amazing. One of the scenes, I think it took like 2-3 hours one of the days. Like, it took up nearly half a day, and it was challenging, and, emotions were everywhere. So, big challenges all day. It was intense directing. I think we had lack of sleep, waking up with coffees 2-3 days, long days, all day, every day. Like, it was intense, honestly.
And what can people expect from watching the movie?
Every film we've done so far, we've had a massive, I would say, the prachar gets out there. That's one way that I would say this is the whole point. It's a different form of prachar, and it is to highlight how serious these issues are. And the most important part of that is to get the message out there. People understand. This is like prevent work, yeah. And without prevent work, you're not going to be able to safeguard your people or the people who are struggling. So if European migrants who are coming here, who are struggling, don't know what the issues are here, then if they do know, they might be able to protect themselves, they might be able to safeguard their kids. So it's so important that that's the whole point of the vision of the film.
And do you think through the documentary people will be able to spot the signs of grooming easier?
Yeah, definitely, that's one. But they'll clearly see the struggles that their families go through, and that's what's important. Like patterns, awareness, sometimes you can't all fit into a short film, yeah? But it's so important that awareness that we do. You can go on our YouTube channel, you can see the in-depth, tactics and patterns perpetrators use, and they can find that as well. But in the movie, there's only so much you can highlight. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And why do you think European Sikh girls are more vulnerable to grooming?
Okay.
I don't think it's vulnerable as such. They're more of a target. So because obviously they're in a new country, they're not aware of the things that actually happen in the UK. And it's not just Europeans, it's like girls that are from London or anywhere in the UK. But I think it actually all comes down to parenting and family. That's a big major factor, you know, to make sure that you have that solid foundation at home.
Hi, I'm good evening, panel. Simran from Punjab 2000. My first question is, because this is based on a true story, how challenging was it to do the actual story justice?
Yeah.
You could never do anything justice the way it is, because the system that we are up against is failing us anyway. So the only justice we can do is to prevent workout, like I've just said. We can highlight these issues, but the best thing for us to do is show justice. And the way we're doing this is to get some kind of justice, to put these family stories out there. So, you know, we're the voice for the voiceless, literally. So by doing this, we're giving them a voice. Does that make sense?
Okay, now often the issue of grooming is seen as a taboo subject. What would you say to the families that are facing this and that don't wish to talk about it for fear of what people will say?
Ring us, we'll be there 100%. Our team will keep this confidential. They will support you, they will show you, and we cover all angles, from support for your family, support to the person going through it, putting safeguarding measures in place, and make sure that they got a future plan as well.
Also for you, from a female perspective as well, how do we talk to the next generation to explain that?
I think I think it's so important to make sure that you have these conversations, like from mother to sister or aunties, and also the men in the household, you know, so that it's not a taboo subject, because these things do happen. And whilst it's like, oh, it's happening in that house and it's happening in that house, and oh, it's got nothing to do with us, at the end of the day, it has got something to do with us, because it's everyone's together. So if we believe in that, then, you know, it doesn't matter whose family it is. It could happen to your own family. So make sure in your own house you've got solid foundations, no matter what. And if your daughter or sister or whoever it is, even if it's a friend, they come to you with a subject, you make sure that you keep that to yourself, you know, and you say to them, you know, whatever you've told me, that's staying with me, but you do seek help. If someone's told you something in private, because when we sit with families, it's so important for them to feel comfortable. It's so important for them to feel like we're going to help them and we're not just doing it for the sake of it.
Do you feel that British authorities are aware of this issue? And if so, how are they dealing with it? Do you feel enough has been done to tackle this problem?
Definitely not. They're most aware, 100% they are. We've handed them reports, which we've done research for 5 decades, which this has been happening in our community. We've given them reports, we handed it to the Home Office. We've sat with regional area commanders at emergency meetings where young girls have been exploited. Are they aware? Of course they are. They're the system's the one that challenge the community who stand up for this. You know, like previously 13 of our lads ended up in jail in 2013 because the system failed a young vulnerable girl. And whose fault's that? That's not the families or the community's fault. That's the system's fault. They failed us. And then we lost twice as a community. Not only did we lose our mothers, sisters, daughters, we've lost our brothers and fathers because they've ended up getting criminalised and ended up in jail.
It's not just Sikh girls, but specifically targeted, and say that they are not racially or religiously targeted?
Okay, every community has its issues. That's categorically, everyone knows that. However, when it comes to ours, there's cultural sensitivities. There's different methods and tactics used. You know, there's a method and pattern which comes under the education, comes under work. You know, college, university, when they first leave. There's so many different ways that people are targeted within the Sikh community. That is slightly different. The system that's in place at the moment, I recently did a course called the PACE course, Parents Against Child Exploitation. I had a refresher and I did that course. They said categorically this course is based for young white girls. So it's a lack of understanding of the BAME community that they're not supporting us. So we have to address our own issues. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Also, I know we spoke about grooming earlier, but how do we talk to the elders elders in our community to not be fearful of addressing this subject? How can we get more to speak about this? I mean, this movie's one thing.
Movie's one thing, but this press conference is another. It's going on KTV. That this message, everyone in their household should be putting it back to their families. That's one. Two, what are our prajaraks doing? They're doing talks, they're doing videos, so then 2 minutes of their katha or at the end of their speeches, they should be highlighting these issues. It's down to us to address it off our Gurdwara stages. The police, the governments can silence us on social media, they can silence us on Ofcom, they can do whatever they like. Our Gurdwara stages are ours, and that's where we have to send our message.
Do you have any more on that?
I think it's important to also understand, like when explaining it to elders, and there is a lot of, there's a lot of mindsets that you can't change, and you can't, explain to them what exactly does go on, because they've got a very black and white mindset. They don't understand that there's also grey in between. So understanding that, but also, slowly, if we all stick together and we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, then slowly it will get better in every household.
Do you think also the younger generation, why are they targeted so much? What is it about our girls and our community that falls prey to this?
I think there's one you've just highlighted in the question just before, lack of communication in the house. It was on about it earlier. Families need to be speaking at home. That conversation has to start at home. You have to safeguard. It's all good sending your kids to school and university and to have a great career, but what about the issues and the safeguarding measures that needs to be put in place? That's where welfare comes in. Welfare in the community is so important. And a message direct to the Sangha. If you haven't got people in your household watching and keeping eyes on your own family, then people are watching them, and they will take they will smell the vulnerability and can prey on them.
Thank you, Salam. ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਮੂਵੀ ਦੇਖਣ ਲਈ ਕੋਈ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਪਰ ਆ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਤੇ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਨੇ ਲਈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਾਰੇ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਸਭ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨਾਲ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਇਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਵਾਂ ਫਿਲਮ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਹੈ ਸਿਕਲੀ ਟੂ ਸਾਊਥਹੋਲ, ਇਸ ਫਿਲਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਟੌਪਿਕਸ ਕਵਰ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਾਣੇ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਦੇਖੀਏ ਤੇ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸੌਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਹ ਨਵਾਂ ਮੂਵੀ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਿਕਲੀ ਟੂ ਸਾਊਥਹੋਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ KTV ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਡੇਟ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਕਦੋਂ ਆਹ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਆ KTV ਤੇ ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਹ ਨਵਾਂ ਫਿਲਮ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਆ ਇਸ ਫਿਲਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਖਾਸ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਕਵਰ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਆ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਗਰੂਮਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਈ ਜਾਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਇਹ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਆਹ ਨਵਾਂ ਫਿਲਮ ਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਈਏ ਕਿ ਸੱਚੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਣੇ ਕਮੈਂਟਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸੋਗੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੂਵੀਆਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਜਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਬਣੇ ਰਹੋ KTV ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
We'd like to thank KTV, Punjab 2000, Unsaid Digital, Core Plan, and the rest of the core cast team for supporting the Sicilly to Southall project. Benti from CQ UK, get aware, make sure you're fully aware of all the dangers that are out there. Tell your families abroad. Thousands of students from Punjab have arrived here in the UK within this pandemic, and they've been struggling, living above restaurants, struggling, people taking advantage of them. We've seen how bad it is out there. It's difficult. As Sikhs, we have to show compassion. And that's the key priority here. So showing compassion, doing dekbal and madad of all these parwars is so important. So I want to thank everyone. A message out there, fully appreciate KTV who have come out to do the press conference, and the film will be exclusively only on KTV. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
We have just watched the Sicilly to Southall movie, and now we're going to speak to some of the guests that attended today's film premiere to see what their opinions were on the whole film. First of all, we've just watched Sicilly to Southall, the movie. So what I want to know is your opinions on the whole film.
It was a very good film. It portrays the realities of what's happening today
plus what's been happening for the last 30 plus years from when I was a teenager, and a similar thing was attempted with me and other girls of my year. And it's just unfortunate that not enough is being done to put a stop to it. It was a good film with a very, very important message, and unfortunately, tragedies keep happening like this.
Do you think, of course, you just mentioned that there's not much awareness on this within our community. Do you think films like these is a good way to promote?
It's a very, very good way to promote it. Not just movies, but even just social gatherings like this. So whether you're going to schools, to colleges, to religious places to talk about this, to educate not just the younger generation, but it's so important to educate the elders and to bridge that gap between them, because unfortunately there is still a culture gap and there is still an age gap, that what you had, the mindset that you had back home, it's very different to when you come here, even from my parents' generation to now. And it's important to bring them closer together, to be more friends with your children, so that the number one place they come to is you before anybody else.
So what I want to know from you is, what is the key messages you took from this movie, and would you encourage parents to ask their children to watch this movie?
It's the key messages here. The key messages here are that it's very, very important to communicate, firstly, and that you have to be self-aware of your surroundings, of who you are as a person. We assume that we can trust everyone. That isn't the case at all. And also to not keep your parents as enemies. They are the people that you should be able to go to before anything. I would advise all ages to come and see this film. It's very important to know that this isn't just a movie. This is real life everywhere, and it's been happening for decades.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today. So we're going to speak to the next person. So what did you think about the whole movie?
I think it's great, the fact that you watch it and you don't think this is actually a problem that is affecting our community, and it's great to see that there is a support system. And I think the important message here is that we need to speak up about everything that is going to your family. You need to sit down and talk about it. So yeah, I think that's what you get mainly from the movie, and spot the little signs that can make you understand that this is an ongoing issue and you need to.
Would you encourage people to watch this movie?
100%, yes. It is a good watch, and you learn so much from it. So yes, definitely.
Oh, मैं थोड़े तो जानना चाहती कि थानू कितना दा मूवी लगिया?
मूवी काफ़ी जिदा इंटरस्टिंग सी, ਤਾਂ ਫੈਕਚੁਅਲ ਤਾਂ ਜੋ ਕੁਛ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਇਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਮੇਂ ਵਿੱਚ, ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲੀ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਆ ਕੇ ਜਾਂ ਵੈਸਟਰਨ ਵਰਲਡ 'ਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਜੋ ਇਨਫਲੂਐਂਸ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ, ਇਹਦਾ ਕਾਫੀ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ, ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਬਚਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖੋ, ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖੋ, ਰਾਈਟ। ਕਰਕੇ ਐਂਡ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੱਪ ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਉਹ ਸੱਪ ਤਾਂ ਸੱਪ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਹੀ ਆ, ਰਾਈਟ। ਪਰ ਸਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਬਣਦੀ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਸ ਸੱਪ ਤੋਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਬਚ ਕੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ। ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਟਾਈਮ ਦਿਓ, ਆਪਣੇ ਹਾਲ ਚਾਲ ਪੁੱਛੋ, ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਦਾ ਪੁੱਛੋ, ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਲਿੰਕ ਬਣਾ, ਆਪਣੇ ਮੇਨ ਚੀਜ਼ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਆ, ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਸੋ ਬਚਨਾ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖੋ, ਰਾਈਟ। ਹਰੇਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਣੀ, ਪਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਫੇਰ ਵੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਡਿਸਪਲਿਨ ਰੱਖੋ ਬੱਚੇ ਦਾ, ਤਾਂ ਪਰ ਫੇਰ ਵੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੇਮ ਟਾਈਮ ਉਹਦਾ ਹਾਲ ਚਾਲ ਵੀ ਪਿਆਰ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖੋ।
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਵਰ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਇਸ ਮੂਵੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਫੈਮਲੀਜ਼ ਜਾਂ ਪੈਰੈਂਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਆ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਆਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਇਹ ਮੂਵੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਵਰ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ, ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕੀ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਉਹ ਮੋੜੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਆ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਫੈਮਲੀ ਜਾਂ ਪੈਰੈਂਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਆ ਸੱਚੀ ਆਹ ਰਿਐਲਿਟੀ, ਆਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਆ?
ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਜਾਂ ਲਾਸਟ 5 ਮੇਬੀ 10 years ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਘੱਟ ਹੋਵੇ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ 30 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੇਖਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਕਹਿ ਲਓ, ਤਾਂ ਬਿਫੋਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਆਪਣਾ ਚੱਕਿਆ ਸੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਤਾਂ 20 years ago, ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਸੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਮਾੜੀ ਮੋਟੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਤਾਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਐਸ ਥਿੰਗਸ ਡਾਈ ਡਾਊਨ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਅੰਡਰਗਰਾਊਂਡ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ।
ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਲੋਕ, ਡੂ ਯੂ ਥਿੰਕ ਇਟਸ ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ?
ਦੇਖੋ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਕੀਤਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਅੱਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮਾਪਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ, ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਹੋਵੇ, ਪਰ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਫੋਨ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀ ਫੋਨਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਵਸਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਦੱਸੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਾਪਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ।
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਦੇਣਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੂਵੀ ਦੇਖਣ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਸਿਰਫ ਯੰਗਸਟਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਮੂਵੀ ਚੱਲਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ?
ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਵੀ ਖਾਸ ਆਪਣਾ KTV ਦਾ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਵੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਆਪਾਂ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਦੱਸ ਵੀ ਸਕਦੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਇਹ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਆ ਇਹ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ। ਕਿਉਂ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਯੰਗਸਟਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਹਰ ਪਨੀਰੀ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਦੇਖੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ, ਤੇ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਜ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਬੀਤੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਜੋ ਗਰੂਮਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਸੀ ਇਹ 30-40 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟਰਮ ਗਰੂਮਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਉਸੇ ਵਕਤ ਜਦੋਂ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਟਾਈਟਲ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਸਰਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਪਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਮਾਂ, ਸਦੀਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ। ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗੇ, ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਯੂਥ ਵਰਗੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰੋ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੈਲਪ ਵੀ ਲਓ।
ਇਹ ਬਸ ਇਹ ਮੈਂ ਰਿਪੀਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਆਪਣੇ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਾ ਬਿਠਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖੋ, ਆਪਣੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਦੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਲੁਕੋ ਕੇ ਨਾ ਰੱਖੋ, ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰੋ। ਰਾਈਟ, ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਚਲੋ ਨਹੀਂ ਯਾਰ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋ ਨਾ, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਕੇ ਰੱਖੋਗੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋਗੇ ਨਾ ਨਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪੈਂਦਾ। ਜੋ ਆਪਣਾ ਖੁਦਕੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਫਾਦਰ ਨੇ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ, ਇਹ ਅਸਲੀਅਤ ਗੱਲ ਆ, ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ। ਰਾਈਟ, ਅਤੇ ਅੰਡੇ ਜੋ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਆਂਢੀ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਕਰਨ ਜੋ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ। ਰਾਈਟ, ਐਂਡ ਇੱਕ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਆ, ਪਰ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣਾ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਬਚਾਅ ਵੀ ਰੱਖੋ, ਇੱਕ ਦੁੱਖ ਵੰਡਾਓ ਵੀ, ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਨ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ। ਸੋ ਡੋਂਟ ਕੀਪ ਇਟ ਹਿਅਰਸੈਲਫ, ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਇਟ। ਰਾਈਟ, ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ। ਰਾਈਟ, ਸੋ ਆਪਣਾ ਕਲਚਰ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਕਰੋ, ਆਪਣੇ ਧਰਮ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਕਰੋ, ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦੱਸੂਗਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਧਰਮ ਆ ਤੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਕਲਚਰ ਇਹ ਕੋਈ ਰੀਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ 'ਚ, ਸਿੱਧੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ। ਰਾਈਟ, ਸੋ ਪਰ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰੋ, ਇਗਨੋਰੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾ ਰਹੋ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਬਸ
ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰੀਏ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਯੂਥ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੋ, ਮਾਇਆ ਤੋਂ ਤੇ ਸਟੇਜ ਤੋਂ ਤੇ ਮਾਈਕ ਤੋਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਸਨੇ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ।
Thank you ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ। Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk with Kiran, who is the main lead in the film, and Deepa Singh from Sikh Youth UK, who has actually been the main person who has actually produced this, who's had quite a lot of involvement in this movie. So here, anything you'd like to say?
I just want to thank KTV for coming, covering this. Thank all the Sangata for backing it. All our projects are there to make a difference in the Panth, and we appreciate all the Sangha support always. Thank you. Especially Superstar here. She done loads, helped loads massively in this project, so thank her as well.
Okay, so anything you guys want to say about the movie?
I just want to say I hope everyone goes out and watches it, because the main thing is that everyone gets a message and stick together as a family, because at the end of the day we don't know what's going to happen around the corner. We need to stick together.
Thank you guys both for this movie as well. It's a good way to create awareness, and we need these kind of things within our community. Thank you so much. One in KTV.